All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of A Sip of Knowledge with Marty Duffy, Liz Rhoades, and Lou Bryson. Plus, this week, special guest, Jake Holshue from Rogue Ales and Spirits. Your host will give you the extended intro to Jake in just a moment. Before that, I'm Will Hookinga from Savvy.co. As always, just want to point out a few ways you can interact with us throughout the show. On your right, you'll see a chat box. Feel free to say hello. Let us know where you're joining us from. I already see Andrew Weber here in Nashville. That's where I am too, at Corsair.
Don't give away your secret location.
Yeah. Jake Holshue's sister says, "Hey, Jake." And
my big sister Rachel.
Ryan Quinlan says, "Hey, Dungeon Master." That must be a nickname, a reference to your title, which I'm sure we'll get into later.
It is.
Anyway, if you have a question at any point during the show, there's a little button that says "Ask a Question" at the bottom down there. Just hit the button, enter your question. I'll be keeping an eye out for those. And last but not least, feel free to invite your friends to join us. There's a share button at the top that makes it really easy to do that. With all that said, Marty, Liz, Lou, I'll turn things over to you now.
Thanks there, Will. You little bugger you. So, hi, everyone. My name is Martin Duffy, former senior master of whiskey for Diageo for like 40 years. Then 18 glorious months as the national brand ambassador for Benedictine, which also seemed like 40 years. And then for 8 years, I was the co-producer of Chicago Independent Spirit Expo. And for the last nearly 7 years, it's coming up on 7 years now. I'm very excited. I am the sole brand representative for Glencairn Crystal throughout all of North America. And soon I will expand my regions to South America and the Isles, probably the Pacific, somewhere nice and warm where I can build a home and a fortress. Lizard?
Thanks, Marty. Hey, everyone. I'm Liz Rhoades, a technical distiller and spirit consultant. I have just over a decade of experience in alcoholic beverage industry, worked across several different products and substrates, including beer, rum, vodka, but my particular favorite and expertise, of course, why we're here is whiskey. I spent most of my career at a small little mom and pop known as Diageo, but now I'm currently founder and principal at Spirit Safe Consulting. And hey, want to learn more? You can. Just scroll down to the About the Host section. There's a little link to my website, so give it a click. Check it out. Lou?
Thank you, Liz.
Oh, and I will say,
sorry.
I didn't mention, so really excited to have Jake on the show today. He's also a good guy, so I busted out, of course, good guy distiller shirt for today. So thank you so much.
I love the good guy distillers by Pepsi. They're the best.
We are no way affiliated. Random colors in random shapes. Any likeness is purely coincidental.
Literally threw shit at the wall.
Pepsi's lawyers are going to really have a field day with that explanation. All right.
Another Ma and Pa brand.
It's small. Maybe you've heard of it, maybe not. Yep. Lou, I'm so sorry. Continue.
No, it's quite all right. It was amusing. I am Lou Bryson. I'm a whiskey and beer writer. Was the managing editor at Whiskey Advocate magazine for 20 years and have since gone fully freelance. Once again, I am a senior drinks writer for the Daily Beast website. And of course, I am flogging my latest book, Whiskey Masterclass, copies of which you can find, obviously, everywhere. And the classic Tasting Whiskey, never to be forgotten. Not my book, but Marty's book, which is also extremely good. The Evil Friendship, a true classic of that kind of literature. I do have a story coming up fairly soon on the Daily Beast about proof, which I think is a good one. I'm kind of excited about that because it's actually the first of two stories about proof. This one is more historic. Why groups of whiskeys seem to have the same proofs: 80 proof, 86 proof, 90 proof, 92, 100, 107, and why that is. And the next one is more something Liz and the good guys helped me with about the science of proof, how it works, and the really weird things about proofing, which I'm literally knocked me out. It's amazing how much a tasteless, taste-free, I suppose I should say, liquid can change the flavor of whiskey so much. And finally, as always, I'm drinking today, and today I am drinking some Jake whiskey. I have this is a Rogue rye malt whiskey. It's a 3-year-old, and it is drinking exceptionally smooth and accessible. This is one of the most friendly rye whiskeys I've ever had.
It's always fun to talk about the rye malt because first off, it's not a rye, right? It's malted rye, which changes everything. It's one of my favorite, and we do have some older casks coming around 5 years now.
Oh, cool.
But as a style, it is a whiskey we no longer make. We have plenty of casks to go around, but it is, so go out, find a bottle of the malted rye. I think it's a historically important whiskey and style that's underrepresented. I like to call it West Coast rye, right?
Right, because of the anchor thing.
Because of the anchor thing.
Yeah.
And paying homage to brewing and malted rye and all those good rye beers that we all love, whether they be smoked or not, Lou.
Yeah.
Jake, since I missed my bottle yesterday, it's coming today. I'm drinking your Little Mill 27-year-old that you made in Scotland.
Yeah,
almost 2 decades ago.
It's one of my lesser known whiskeys, but I was once called the Kevin Bacon of craft distilling by two friends. One of them owns Blackwater Distilling out of Maryland, and the other owns Blackwater Distilling out of Ballyduff, Ireland.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God, yeah. We had him on the show.
Peter
Mullen. So it was funny, like, oh, how do you know Jake Holshue? And then it became this whole thing. So I may or may not have made that 27 years ago. I was in elementary school at the time, and things were just popping for me. So
you were a quick learner.
You're a 11th level wizard. Who knows what, does time really matter?
Sure. It's very fluid for a wizard.
Yeah.
Dimensions.
Yeah, there's some sort of like FBI-esque map of like Jake Holshue strings. Yeah.
Isn't that him on the grassy knoll?
Yeah, so speaking of time, we seem to have somehow transcended the introduction. So pull back and yes, Liz?
I too as well, since we're on a tear about delaying the activities of the show. I am very close to Jake. I'm in Oregon, and I was very fortunate to swing by the tap room. Thank you so much, Jake. So I am drinking
nice.
Rolling Thunder Stouted today. So really appreciate that. I'm just tucking into it, but so far really enjoying some of the dried fruit and raisin notes. So cheers. Can we
clink?
Can we do a little?
Oh, ouch. Ow. That's very rare, Jake. I mean, Liz doesn't usually drink.
No, she's a water girl.
And she's 2 hours earlier than me right now. So that's crazy.
I have that effect on people. They start immediately running to the whiskey as soon as they start hanging out with me.
Jake's sister is right. Can't drink all day unless you start in the morning.
She is. Right. She certainly paved the way for me in history and alcohol. So my number one fan, Rachel.
I hope your sister isn't like in a trailer in an abandoned lot somewhere with a bottle. But
no,
she's internet. And I'm drinking, Jake.
No, she's in the Portland suburb of Clackamas, Southeast Portland.
Nice.
Clackamas. We often enunciate a clack my ass.
Of course you do.
Yeah.
Of course you do.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Clock my ass, why don't
Is
you?
the intro is now good, guys?
I think we're good.
Let's
Okay.
go.
All right, okay. So everybody, this is Jake. Hi, Jake.
Hi.
Go ahead. Start talking. No, sorry. Jake started as a home brewer and wanted to become a brewer and wound up becoming a distiller instead. You've been at Rogue since 2015. You told us, and I got to meet you in 2017. Stopped by the distillery. 6 years. Yep.
Hard of counting.
Yeah. Well, like you said in the green room, math is hard.
It is.
It's so freaking hard. And as I said, I stopped out in 2017. I wanted to, to be honest, I wanted to reconnect with Rogue because apparently I had pissed off somebody and Rogue Spirits didn't talk to me for a number of years. But hey, we're all good now. And as I said, so's the whiskey. So I was very impressed with what I saw when I was there. Not the least of which was you, Jake. I mean, you took me through, you explained everything, you showed me the cooperage, which was so freaking cool. Not a huge cooperage, almost more like a wood shop that got carried away, but putting out some fine stuff. I mean, looked like furniture.
Mm-hmm.
So you're you're involved with the ACSA.
That's true.
Yeah. You're on the board?
Yeah, I'm serving my second term on the board of directors for ACSA.
It's kind of like serving a sentence, that kind of thing. Yeah.
The hardcore folks on the ACSA board, we may not be elected officials in the truest sense, but we stick around for a really long time. We know the value of what we do for our industry. And I always look to Johnny Jeffrey as one of my heroes in this industry, and he hasn't been a board of director member for many years, but he still continues to give what he can to our industry organization. So, I'll figure this will be my last official term, but I'll keep hanging around as long as Margie will have me.
And the value of cooperation in the industry cannot be overemphasized. Nothing gets done if you don't do it together.
Rising tides raise all ships,
it's interesting. I just found out something about that. Apparently that's because I just came across this in a book and I started looking into it further. That's how I always heard it.
Yeah.
A rising tide lifts all boats. Apparently in non-coastal cities, they say a rising river lifts all boats.
You have to adapt.
Yeah.
It also takes trailer parks that are way too close to the banks downstream.
Yeah, and does away with that.
Yep.
Yeah, and get you some new mud on the bottomlands.
In rural Florida,
it's all good.
It's rising septic tanks.
So anyway, there's a great introduction for Mr. Jake Holshue. I'm looking forward to this. This is going to be fun.
Absolutely. Thanks, Lou.
Jake.
If you could expand on that and tell us how you wound up where the hell you are and why.
Yeah.
That's how we usually start things out, and then we turn Liz loose and let her grill you.
I'm really stressing about that, guys. You don't know, I was reading books just to get technically, on board with myself.
She'll trip you up on some of those chemicals.
It's so difficult. So I'm a born and bred Montana kid, raised in Billings, Montana, originally from Bozeman, but we got family all over the Big Sky State. Helena used to have some peeps in Glendive, up on the High Line, pretty much anywhere. But started a distillery there back in 2012.
Okay, I have to because I'm just curious.
Yeah.
I've heard all that before except the High Lines. Where's that? What's that?
Yeah, so the High Line is Highway 2. It goes.
Oh.
Yeah, it's basically the 50-mile border to Canada.
Great, thank you.
I
love things like that.
But yeah, the High Line, it's a beautiful drive. It's long and flat and gorgeous. From Glasgow to Flathead Lake all the way. It's a gorgeous drive if you ever get a chance.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, so Montana, it's beautiful. The Montana State University, FTG, for all my peeps back home in the 406. So yeah, a lot of code. It's all good. It's all good.
I go to Montana. Will I be able to speak English to people?
Yeah, if you say FTG really loud, 50% of everybody is going to be really behind you, and 50% are going to want to string you up.
Okay, what's the G stand for?
Nothing new, really, Jake.
There's a football rivalry called the Brawl of the Wild. That's University of Montana versus the Montana State University Bobcats.
Gotcha.
And FTG is a unfortunate term to use to your opponents at the University of Montana, who happen to be Grizzlies. I'll let you figure out the rest.
That's all I need.
Right.
That's all I need.
FTG.
Extrapolate the rest. Yeah. Apparently, I was the one who needed to do the reading. I needed to do some prep around this language, this vernacular that you were using. So I'm apparently the one who needed to do the prep.
Yeah, so Montana, I love it. It's gorgeous. It's a big state. It started a distillery there called Trailhead Spirits with the owner Casey McGowan. Beautiful thing about that distillery is the McGowan family still to this day grows wheat in what we call the Golden Triangle of Montana. Dryland wheat farmers. And so we had really cool raw material to work with. We did make a vodka, which is very well known in the area. A couple gins named after his grandfather, who was a bar owner back in the vigilante days of Montana. And made some beautiful whiskeys there as well. And Joe and Casey and all the crew there, shout out to you guys. It's still doing great work. From there, I decided to go through a little culture shock and, cultural cold water to the face and move to Baltimore, Maryland from beautiful Montana. I still, you asked why. I don't know why. It was an adventure. I saw it as a challenge and jumped face first into a concrete pool.
Welcome to Baltimore, hon.
Welcome to Baltimore, hon. That's right. You can go down the ocean. I'm waiting for the whiskey through the nose. Has that happened yet? Because I swear that's my new fucking goal.
That's how Lou filters his whiskey anyway. But,
not
nose hair filter.
Yeah.
That's my new goal.
Just tasting whiskeys with Susan Wrigley the other night. She's like, "Hey, you can always tell a bourbon taster we have no nose hairs left at all," because they were just getting crisp. I don't think we tasted anything under 53%.
First thing I look for on a person is nose hairs. It's weird.
Well, we're getting to that age, aren't we?
You're looking up there.
I would know nothing about what you old guys are talking about.
Yeah.
You will.
Pretty close.
You will.
That's fair.
Baltimore.
Helped found what is now known as the Baltimore Spirits Company. Its original moniker was the Baltimore Whiskey Company. Helped found the Maryland Distillers Guild with the help of Kevin Addicks and all that crew. Met tons of distilleries in that area. But I was a long way from home. I'm a Montana kid at least and a West Coast kid at best. And found an opportunity at Rogue at 2015 to move my family westward after we moved eastward. So about 5,000 miles in 2 years.
Wow.
Oh, wow. You weren't in Maryland that long at all.
Yeah, no, it really wasn't. It was a rough time in Baltimore.
It is a shift. There's no doubt about it.
It was a shift, and that's right when the Freddie Gray riots were happening. There was a lot of unrest. There's a park right across from our street that the following day there were some rioters who torched that, and unfortunately it was one of those recycled tire playgrounds, and so it smoldered for days and days. But the good news out of all of that is Baltimore is healing. There's always progress where it can be found. There's good people in that community. They have an excellent food scene. Baltimore Spirits Company is making great whiskey. If you ever get out that way, the Epic.
There is some really great stuff goes on in Baltimore. No
Yeah,
doubt.
they had a convention there not too long back, and it was a lot of fun. We went to some really great bars.
I think that was ADI.
I remember.
Was that ADI?
Yeah, it was ADI.
Oh, yeah. It was ADI then.
But I remember, them having a really great mezcal bar. And I remember that was the first time I really got to appreciate mezcal. But that for another show, that was a side.
Dove head first into that concrete pool he was talking about. Was that what you did?
They do make at the Baltimore Spirits Company what they call a Oaxacan style apple brandy. That was definitely worth checking out with a Maryland ham hung from the still.
Had it. That blew me away. That was amazing.
Yep. And they used to take the skins and cores from all the apples from their cider and go take it to Blue Pit Barbecue in Baltimore, which is also a legit barbecue spot. It's no chaps.
Book signing there.
They do all right. They do all right.
Wow.
And then smoke the apple and then put it into the ferment so that you could get that smoky. Nice. I think they do their own smoking. All them phenols.
You see that, Marty? They go and take a beautiful thing like smoked apple brandy and turn it into science with this phenol talk.
I know. God
just
damn
makes
it.
Me crazy.
You think Johnny Appleseed was talking about phenols? No.
Chipotle, are you going to talk about phenols with this too? Can't we just say smoked jalapenos?
We can. There is Chipotle discussions to be had if one wants to go down that path, and why Chipotle whiskey may not be a great idea.
I think we should, but before we do, I think let's continue. Yeah, with the Jake journey.
We haven't even got to Rogue yet.
And then I got to Rogue. Funny story.
It's very quick, this boy. I like
it. Traveled another 5 days across country in a 26-foot U-Haul with 2 dogs and a cat, 2 kids, and a very understanding, patient wife who I love and adore. And then we got to Rogue in Newport, Oregon, which, this is Central Oregon coast. We're about 200 yards from the bay and about, half a mile to the ocean. So started here in 2015, did a lot of stuff in that time, made friends, enemies, frenemies. We're all richer for the experience. And then in 2018, I took a leave of absence from Rogue. I said, good luck, guys. I wish you the best. And I left to sunny, snowy Northern California, to Truckee, California, of all the silly places in the world, North Lake Tahoe. Yeah. Helped out some folks at Old Trestle for a couple of years, get their American single malt program underway. A very, very intense gin program, of which they called their theory gins. So theory 1, theory 2, theory 3, all different types of gin, different varieties of gin.
I think we need more of that. Just saying.
Absolutely.
We really do.
Absolutely. In fact, theories 3, 4, and 5 were all the same base gin, but then split into 3. One was a bourbon cask honey finished. One was a Zinfandel hibiscus finish, and one was a Chardonnay barrel turmeric and ginger finish.
So bringing a somewhat brewing oriented idea to gin, maybe. Yeah,
getting weird with gin. I'm all about it.
Well, gin is just that. I mean, going off the whiskey thing for a bit, but well, we already did, really.
Yeah.
I mean, I think gin is probably oddly the closest spirit to whiskey. I think.
Well, I think it's
all
the
grain
one
based, right?
I think it's the one that someone can really express. I mean, because you can play with so many different flavors and ingredients and levels of ingredients. It's amazing. I'm always surprised when I taste a gin that is really fruity, and then find out it actually has more juniper in it than most other gins because they had to up the juniper quotient to match the fruit.
Oh yeah,
It's really I don't know. I always find gins a lot of fun. They can be really bad, but so can whiskey.
Those do exist out there for
Right.
sure.
Yeah. Route to market, though, I think that, right, obviously the innovation timeline is much more truncated.
Yeah.
And
whiskey.
that's
100%.
yeah. So there's it's easier to innovate, and that's something I definitely want to circle back on, is around the Rogue innovation process, because I think you have a lot of room to play in, and for sure, and I think that's something we should dig into. But again,
Yeah,
Jake Journey.
Jake Journey. And then I came back to Rogue. Funny story. Yeah, and then going through the pandemic, we did the hand sanitizer at Old Trestle, and we, unfortunately, a lot of confluence of a series of unfortunate events kind of surrounded Old Trestle and what we were trying to do. We had good route to market to export to China, and then tariffs and retaliatory tariffs to China hit, and then we're like, okay, well, let's do a tasting room, and then the local municipality decided to slow that up. And then we're like, okay, well, let's do some sort of hybrid thing. And then the pandemic happened, right? So did the hand sanitizer thing, tried to do some DTC as much as California would allow us to do. But, felt the call of the ocean back home here to Newport. So August of last year, I came back to my old job. But with renewed vigor and focus on kind of the long-term game and innovating some products that I'd been kind of throwing in the back of my head for a while, and hopefully in the next 6 months going to see to some fruition and see those come to life in one way or the other. So, and now I'm here. So that's journey to Jake.
Exclamation point.
Yeah.
So, all right, Jake, now hitting on that. So you have ideas running through the back of your head. What are you thinking? You're not, say, before you're distilling, you get ideas in the back of your head you have that you haven't tried yet.
Yeah. So I, especially at Rogue, they allow me to try anything. And a lot of, my inspiration tends to be culinary. In nature, I think if I wasn't a distiller, I would like to be a chef with like a funky joint, like diners. Me and Guy Fieri would be like this, right? Like
just because the hours and pay are even worse than distilling.
Yeah, exactly. It's really, I hate myself, guys, and but I like the creative process. Yeah. I like the stress. It's intense. It's invigorating. It's insane. It's more intense than any drug on the market. And so a lot of mine tends to be creative. Sometimes it's taking something culinarily speaking and not necessarily devolving it, but coming up with a way to do it in spirits. And one of the examples of that here at Rogue is Gravlox. Anyone? Quick press salmon with a little aquavit sprinkled on top. So the idea was to make an aquavit that tasted like salmon.
It's nice.
Okay.
And
especially
so
where you are,
what I would consider a very innocent concept turned into just hating myself even more. We got a company to make us two salmon flavorings. One was what we call the natural salmon, and one was a smoked salmon, being Pacific Northwest. So I was like trying to okay, the wheels are turning. That was the most vile shit I have ever
Yeah.
My employees banned me from opening it indoors.
So I guess associate a fishy or a scaly. I tend to think of tails, right?
Sure.
So
yeah,
the stuff that you.
Oh! I thought you meant like literal fish tails. Sorry.
No.
Okay. All right.
Not fish tails.
Oh yeah.
We're talking.
I gotcha.
Distilling.
Cocktails.
We're talking distilling here. So back to distilling.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes.
I tend to associate that with like a leathery or a fishy sort of more of a tails component that you may not necessarily want, but I suppose in the right setting, like you mentioned an aquavit. So are you still doing R&D on that? Or are you banished?
No, that has been killed, and we couldn't be happier as a family.
Okay.
It's so dead. It's so dead. But that being
That's probably
said,
the way it smells that way.
yeah, and in the good guys, I don't know if it's like a dare that we all do meat spirits.
Oh, right.
But this last year, and I don't know how well this is going to come up, but this was a holiday gift for the brewery and distillery employees. So it's called Dr. Holshue's 2020 Elixir. And if you can read into the ingredients here, you have your usual suspects of like juniper, orange peel, angelica, sage, which was smudging sage because we had to get rid of the bad juju of 2020, orris root, an entire roasted turkey, of which I took home the night before, roasted at home, basted it, do the whole thing, and then put it in the still the next day. Stovetop stuffing. We did 2 cans of cranberry sauce, 1 jellied and 1 like whole fruit, because everybody's got their preference.
Everybody,
right? You want to please everyone at the exactly.
How much does a can of sauce cost?
And then an entire gingerbread house, of which I had my packaging crew put together the gingerbread house so that we could put it into the still, and then of course some chestnuts that my Cooper roasted over an open fire.
Because you have to.
You have to. It's math.
You have to go through the list, the
You
shopping
gotta
list.
clean out that still the next day.
Oh yeah, no, we did
burned it.
Heavy
Just
CIP
melted
on
it.
there.
Yeah.
Heavy CIP.
Wow.
Couple cycles.
So,
but it doesn't
what
taste
sort
like
of,
meat, right?
Yeah. What sort of learnings, I guess, from that?
Don't do it again.
Were there some
We don't
nuggets?
learn anything. No, God, no. No, of course. So I think like one of the things was nobody I gave the bottle to believed that there was a turkey in there, right? They're like, it doesn't taste like meat at all. And you're like, yeah, of course. Like you don't put meat in the still to make it taste like meat. You put the meat in the still to like increase mouth flavor and like increase that creaminess of the spirit and make it, kind of last longer on the palate.
The bids, yeah.
Sorry, I'm just laughing at the thought of putting fish in the still, which you definitely did do, right?
Oh yeah, like down at Old Trestle, I did a black gin with squid ink.
Wow.
Like it was jet black. And that was
find it hilarious that people think Malort is odd.
Malort's disgusting. It's
dude.
fine. Yeah, it's disgusting.
It's what us Chicagoans give you foreigners when you come to Chicago to weed
That's
you
right.
out. If
Exactly.
you collapse on the
But
ground,
it's called deep dish pizza. It's not
don't be going
pizza.
after the deep dish now.
No,
don't be
it's a flippin' casserole is what it is.
Oh, okay, John Stewart. Get out of here.
Get out of here.
Don't make me come out there, Jake. I will, and I will
It's
crush you
too
like a
much
little bug.
cheese. It's just too much.
What?
Like,
Liz,
Listen to yourself.
no wonder
pizza
you're
is
not in Chicago. You
much
were kicked
cheese.
out. Liz
That's a
didn't leave
phrase that
Chicago.
doesn't make sense.
I
Casserole.
was not. I wasn't
All right.
kicked out.
You were kicked out. All right, Jake. With the cranberry sauce and the stovetop stuffing.
Liz,
were
do
they
you
still
notice
in the
this?
box
Do you
and
see this,
can?
Liz? This is Marty pulling it back on topic. That's how far off we
Yeah.
are.
Were they
No,
still in the
I've just
can
been training.
and box?
I've been training.
Oh,
in the still?
okay, fair enough.
Will, can we just break off the two? Me and Jake talk. Those two can have put them in another room. Wow. Wow.
Every day we stray further from God,
Will is God.
So if any of you were doubting whether Will was paying attention,
Will is always paying attention.
He's there.
Kind of like God.
Okay.
Well, sometimes
So-
he's distracted,
Right.
just like God.
let's get back to whiskey, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what do you make over there, Jake? What kind of whiskey?
So we're at Rogue. Crazy story, right?
Yeah.
We make quite a few whiskeys. In the next year or so, we're kind of redefining our whiskey brand as a whole. When we're kind of defining who we are and who we wanted to be, Dead Guy Ale for our brewery is who we are. And so for us here at Rogue, Dead Guy Whiskey is who we are. So we're taking the Scottish model and making one thing, but making many different expressions thereof. So in the next year, we have a wine cask finish Dead Guy coming out. The whiskey that Liz has, the Rolling Thunder Stouted Whiskey, will be slightly rebranded to Dead Guy Stouted Whiskey. And a whole host of maybe some smokier Dead Guys as well.
So you're really playing around with malt. It's not just
absolutely.
malt. Yeah,
absolutely. We take malt and being a single malt American single malt distillery very seriously. When Rogue Spirit started in 2003, we were originally Oregon's first rum distillery, of which it's a legacy that we still hold on to. We still have some casks of rum aging. I am here to announce that in 2 years' time, we will do the last and final blend of rum that we will ever put in bottle. It will be our 20-year anniversary, 2003 to 2023. And it will be, I think, 16-year-old rum at that point.
Wow.
And is some of the original distillations that we did here in Newport. So it's been sitting all this time.
That almost sounds like an exorcism.
Yes. Absolutely. It's taken many years to get those demons corrected.
Yeah, spirits. The spirits. Come on, use the pun. Sorry.
Spirits. Yeah. But you've changed your distillation equipment quite a bit since 2003, right?
100%. We had this thing in typical Rogue fashion. They built the first still. It was called Tin Man. It's a bomb is what it is. It's a bomb that is beautiful and is copper, but it's a bomb. In 2006, we got our first Vendome, which was the weirdest shaped thing. It looks more like a UFO than a still. It's 150 gallon.
Kind of squat.
Yeah. And it had to do with the space we put that in. Our tasting room now was our original distillery. We used to call it the House of Spirits, but it's now the Sunset Bar because it is on the bay, right in looking west. And if you can see that sunset right at the bar, sipping a cocktail, it's fucking gorgeous.
I like your you said earlier your Dead Guy whiskeys. What was it? Do your smokier Dead Guy whiskeys, and all I could think of is maybe you should name one of those whiskeys Jack Cassidy or something. Name it after dead guys who died in fires.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
What, is that dark?
It's a little bit. It's a little bit.
You got a skeleton as your little mascot guy.
That's true. Our Dead Guy Topper.
Okay. Yeah. Hello. Yeah. Hello.
So
I guess I'm the outlier.
The origin story behind the Dead Guy.
There
were two brands at the time. Our brewmaster John Meyer, who just retired in 2019, brewed for 30 years here at Rogue. He also used to brew for this small brewery called Alaskan Brewery back in the day. He is an OG of original brews. Anyway, we had two brands. We had a Maibach style ale with some crystal malts, with some Munich malt in there, and it was a gorgeous beer. But they called it Meyerbock, right after John Meyer. At that time, I don't know that his personal brand was that it would have been synonymous. People got it, we were still pretty young as a brewery. But we also had this Mexican lager that we contract brewed for a Day of the Dead themed restaurant in Portland. And this is going to sound like I made it up. I couldn't make it up if I tried. The restaurant chain was called Casa You Betcha. And so they had this Dead Guy lager that they modeled that kind of black and silver, but it was around this Dead Guy, Day of the Dead, Dios los Muertos concept. And eventually that restaurant chain went out of business and they did the old swap. So Meyerbock started being Dead Guy Ale, and that Mexican lager went the way of the dinosaurs. And ever since, it's been a huge hit for us here at Rogue. When you look at craft beer, there are very few flagship brands that really stand the test of time. And I think the challenge in craft beer right now, as an outsider looking in, I get to critique my friends across the parking lot, is trying to stay alive. If you get single digit growth on a flagship, that is huge in the brewing industry right now. And consistently since the rebranding that we did, that was like 2015, 2016 on the Dead Guy Ale side, it's one of the few flagship brands on the craft beer side that continues to see growth year after year. In almost every market we put it in. We have it in every size, 12-ounce can, 16-ounce can. We have a 19.2-ounce can. We have, our 12-ounce bottle. We have our 22-ounce bottle, which Rogue was really, I credit Rogue with the expansion of the 22-ounce bomber here in the United States. Jack Joyce, our founder, everybody thought he was fucking nuts. Like, what do you mean 22 ounces? That's 2 beers. That's almost 2 beers. That's not even 2 beers, right? Brought this 650 ml bottle to the US and really proliferated here in Oregon. And it's because of that Dare Stream attitude that Jack Joyce had back in the day that has allowed us to do some really cool stuff nowadays.
Can I tell my favorite Rogue story? My favorite Rogue beer story?
Please. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So stories.
The 22-ounce bottles often had a little slogan under the picture of different. They had a bunch of different people on them. John Mayer was one of them. Mo from the restaurant there in Newport had a label. Sebi Bueller, longtime Rogue rep on the East Coast, was on the chocolate stout, I think. And I mean the tag of the brewery was "To the Rogue in All of Us," and there was one. It was an Irish ale, and the guy's name was Dick something. And we were at my father-in-law's wake, and I'm sitting out in the back deck with his younger brother and one of his sons, one of my brothers-in-law, and the brother-in-law's young son came up. I think he was about 12 at the time. And I remember Pete finished off the bottle of, which said "To the Dick in All of Us," of course, finished off that Irish ale and holds it out to his son, his 12-year-old son, and says, "Get me another one of these, and tell your mom she needs to get some of this Rogue Dick in her."
Oh,
at my father-in-law's wake. I'm like, I love this family. I will be in this family the rest of it. We made 3 beer runs during the wake because we kept running out.
It does sound like a proper wake.
So damn proud.
That's how a wake should be, though. That's an old Irish thing.
I told
celebration.
Kathy, if I go before she does, get every single bottle out, put it on a table, open it, and just tell people to take home whatever they want.
That's what I've said about all the stuff I have. Just
put it out there.
Money, don't spend a big bar bill. I got a bar bill right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want my will just to say, listen to Tim Finnegan's wake. Do that. And then I'll wake up and I'll just party with y'all, just do that. And if I don't wake up, then I'm actually dead. And then,
Fun little fact about that song, Fiona O'Connor told me that, how in that song, Tim Finnegan's laying in the casket, and I believe there's whiskey at his head and beer at his feet.
Mm-hmm.
That's because if you go to Dublin, he lived in a house that was between Guinness and the George Road distillery. How about that? So literally,
there you go.
It wasn't just.
See, this is what happens when you start talking about Dead Guy Ale.
Yep.
Dead Guy Ale. Stories arise.
And I've only heard stories, but when Jack Joyce passed away, there was quite a shindig in his honor, to say the very least. I can neither confirm nor deny any of those stories. I was not here.
I will say that Jack was always one of the best interviews, because I mean, he said what was ever on his mind, and usually what was on his mind was pretty damned interesting.
He never held back, and that's God bless him for that.
Yeah.
There could be something for you to distill when you die. Just throw you in the still.
Oh my God!
Along with some dead guy, dead guy ale.
The most amazing pachuga of all time.
The dead guy, distill it.
Speaking of phenols, that's what we call a callback in the industry.
I smell a little. I'm have a little beard, wool cap.
Yeah. Instead of inoculating a fermentation, it's
which John Mayer did.
Yeah, it's beard distilled.
Yeah.
It's a totally different flavor profile.
That could be the name of your biography, I think. That'd be a good beard distilled.
Beard distilled. But share the D though. That's clutch. You gotta share.
Of course.
Yeah.
Jake,
it could be like the mirror D kind of thing.
That's very 21st century.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
All right, where did we wander to? Can we get to the Rolling Thunder
I'm gonna bring back. Okay, fine. Yeah, go ahead.
Can we do the Rolling Thunder thing? I want to talk about the cooperage. I mean, why did you do that? I mean, that's really the basic question, I think.
Yeah, I think so. At the time, it was Brett Joyce, Jack's son, and the motto from Jack was always dare, risk, dream. Sometimes we also called it ready, fire, aim in that order. And it's like, we also had a hop farm up until this year. We grew our own hops for several of our products, and that is a silly undertaking by any stretch of any industry's imagination. And it wasn't, for us, the cooperage is, but I think there's a little bit more soul to it than that. I think the reason is getting to our literal roots, to know who we are as brewers and distillers, was to also grow our own ingredients. At one time, we had our own barley farm. Several of our single malts.
You were growing all kinds of shit, weren't you?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Can we talk about the farm a little bit more too?
So two of them, there's one up in Tye Valley at one time that grew our barley, and then we did rye as a cover crop up there, but we did get to seed a few times there. We also had our own floor malting facility up there, and it was literally just kind of an outbuilding with a poured slab and a drain, and we did our own floor malting. Both the hop farm and the grain farm are no longer with us, unfortunately. The hop farm just closed this last year, and unfortunately, I will go to the extent of saying it is a victim of COVID. So that closed, and then in 2017, I think the grain farm closed. But to me, the cooperage is along those same lines. It is preserving who we are as makers, creators, and wanting to control every process in that line. So
a certain amount of learning tool as well.
Absolutely. And we get tours out here, in the non-COVID days, and I'm sure our tours, but you get families together. We have beer for the adults and root beer for the kids. We had a train at one time. We used to load people up and train them out here to the cooperage and distillery and teach these guys. This is a craft that is over 2,000 years old. It has not changed much. Our way of doing things is based on French coopering techniques. So let's just say it's a pain in the ass. We're not saving any money by doing it this way, right? And that's the point. That is the literal point of what we're doing. So with that, in 2014, we found a cooperage for sale up in Canada. Our operations manager, Brett, drove dead of night all the way up to Canada, got to the cooperage, and they said, we just sold.
No.
We just missed it. And so Brett, being the entrepreneur and seizing some carps that day, as I like to say, he said, well, what if you got a check in hand for $10,000 more than you were offered? And he's like, well, it looks like this cooperage is yours now. We didn't have a plan. We didn't have a space. We just pack it all into shipping containers, dealt with customs, but it sat around for months while we built an actual building to hold our cooperage. So we worked with what we affectionately known as our sister cooperage up in McMinnville, Oregon. Oregon Barrel Works. They do some great barrels up there as well, but got us hooked on this Quercus Gariana thing. Oregon
that's
Oak.
what I was gonna ask you about. Are you
I'm so excited to talk about Gariana with you.
Predominantly just Gariana, or are you working with Albus or other?
So that particular barrel and bottle you're tasting is 100% Gary.
Okay.
But in our cooperage, over the years, we've discovered that the American palate does not prefer Gariana by
Really?
and large, does not. And so
it's pretty strong stuff.
It's intense.
Yeah.
What would you attribute that to? What sort of chemical makeup, I guess, have you dug into? Is it more akin to French, where it has a higher polyphenol or tannin structure? What does that look like? I don't know if you could share.
Yeah, I wish I was more prepared. I'd bring up my sheet because I write stuff down so I don't remember.
Notified you a long time ago about this.
No, I was that guy. Don't be that guy, Jake. But
Jeez.
what I would say is yes, Oregon Oak, it has huge tannin. It's almost palate scrapingly tannic. And to the other extent, eugenol and isoeugenol, which are generally like clove and jammy fruit, like spicy jammy fruit kind of thing, those are also huge. It was often thought that Oregon Oak does not have as much vanillin as American Oak, but we have chemically proved that to be not correct. It does have equal amount of vanillin, but it has higher amounts of eugenol and isoeugenol, which generally kind of, I don't want to say like weed out, but it kind of muddies the water a little bit when it comes to your vanillin production.
Because it's more of a bolder.
Absolutely. So it's spicy, it's dry, it's tannic, and it's almost everything that American palates are not known for, right? We love sweet, and more different sweet. And that's it.
That.
But it makes something good to blend in, though, right?
Well, yes and no. So like the winemakers through Oregon Barrel Works, which, Rick DeFerrari is the guy that started that, late 80s, early 90s, I think. He got the winemakers on Oregon Oak first. And for them, it is a blending tool, not a wholly original cooperage option. For us, because we like to do silly things, I thought it would be cool to do a wholly Gariana whiskey. That is what Liz has. But we have to treat it differently, knowing that it's so tannic. we have to.
All right.
We have
Thanks,
to,
Carol Merrill.
Both of you will have yours, but timing and all of that stuff.
Well, I got my address to you.
It's my fault. Go to the. I went to the source. I don't know.
You did. And
so
I envy you.
With the Rolling Thunder Stouted whiskey, it is Dead Guy whiskey that goes into brand new Rolling Thunder Quercus Gariana casks. We age that whiskey in that barrel for up to a year. We take that whiskey out and we send that barrel over to our brewery to be filled with Imperial Stout. And the Rolling Thunder Imperial Stout, to me, because of how high in alcohol, really acts more like a sherry or a port barrel, like a fortified wine barrel, because there have been years where we've hit 15, 16% on our ABV of that stout. Yeah. So it's like, candy fruit, super sweet barley. And then we age that for up to a year, take that stout out and put that original whiskey back into the cask for its finishing. So what you're getting is a ton of that cocoa caramel, the stout flavors. And to me, the sweetness of that Imperial Stout is really what balances out the tannic nature of the Quercus Gariana. But to your earlier question, Liz, as a cooperage, we dabble in all woods. Currently, we primarily do Alba barrels now, but we just released our first cask of cherry wood cask finished Oregon single malt. So it's a 6-year aged in Alba barrels, finished in a cask made of cherry wood, which is very rare indeed. I'm actually going to do a quick shout out to my homies down in High, Texas, Garrison Brothers, Dan Garrison. We are working on a little collab project of sorts with our cooperage. I was down there for an ISTS OSHA 10 class, of which safety, and noticed that they had a lot of pecan trees down in the hill country. Bourbon Trail road trip, I'm sure. But we found all these pecan trees, and I started asking Dan, well, does anybody harvest those for anything? And so we got into this adventure of trying to find a mill that would have big enough boards, and we have created 2 casks. They're both pecan wood from the hill country of Texas. Dan Garrison has 1 barrel, and we have 1 barrel. So we have our Oregon single malt whiskey in pecan, and then Dan's got some bourbon in his.
What is the I guess cask per tree? Like I'm not familiar with the branching of pecan, but is it 1 for 1, or what does that look like?
Pecan was very unique to work with. It's something we didn't have experience with, and I don't know that we have a large enough data set to really have a true working knowledge. We've done it once. I will tell you, it's very porous. It's very porous. And just to give you an example, we have a kiln that we put our greenwood into to essentially dehydrate it before the barrel building process. And generally speaking, like we have a dehumidifier in there, and we can kind of gauge how much water we get. And we'll put like 5 or 6 pallets in there at a time. But we just had the 1 pallet of pecan wood, and we removed 30 gallons of water from that pecan. It was some of the most porous, and it definitely, we hydrate our barrels prior to putting in, but we could see the amount of water it soaked up. It was thirsty. So we did end up topping that barrel off, and we'll probably release ours next year along with Dan's. But the idea is that we're going to, we both work with ETS laboratories out of California, and they have that beautiful oak aroma profile that they could run. So we're going to compare our pecan aged spirits and see what that does to them over time.
Different spirits, right? So their distillate and your distillate aged in fundamentally different climates.
And, you could say High Texas is a little bit different than the Oregon coast when it comes to climate, temperature, humidity, lifestyle,
everything.
Okay. We did a study in our aging room. We have one of those data loggers. So every 600 seconds, it takes temperature, relative humidity, and barometric pressure. I started that when I left, and the guy who was here didn't touch it. So I now have 6 years worth of climate data, or at least really, really good temperature data for our aging room.
Cool.
And there should be no surprise that our aging conditions are more like that of Scotland and Ireland versus Tennessee or Kentucky, right? But you could easily surmise that, but like now we have the data to support it and what that looks like. And a lot of our fluctuation in our barrels actually comes from barometric pressure changes as opposed to temperature fluctuations, just coming off the coast. We get these huge storms. Do you get any issues with smoke from fires? No,
not where you are.
Last year was the one year I was a little concerned. We had kind of fires on all corners of us, and we had a unique wind last year that drove, usually it's from the west going east, but we had kind of this inversion where all the east smoke from the valley came out. We had a fire north of here out in Rhoades, Oregon, and it was really scary. I mean, for those of you who have been here, I could not see the bridge. That's how smoky it was here.
Wow.
It's not that far.
No.
That was the first time that fire had really been on our radar. But we kept the aging room closed. We turned the fans off. We tried to do what we could to mitigate smoke influence, but our Oregon single malt does have smoked malt. There are several whiskeys that we are working on the smokier side of things, which is some of my favorite spirits that we're working on. So,
and what are you smoking with?
Wouldn't you like to know, Lou?
All right,
that's what the show's about.
Wouldn't you like to know? Hey,
Jake's anti-information.
I'm not anti-information.
That's right.
I'm still trying to get
wanted
whiskey out the nose, but yeah, I mean, we're trying some unique non-wood options that I think are really exciting. Right behind us is the Hatfield Science Center, which is an extension of Oregon State University and their maritime division, and we are working on seaweed smoke, which is kind of cool. We have also gone to the extent of trying to find peat bogs here in Oregon, of which it's always a confluence of things. You can either find the peat bog, but you can't get to it, or you can't find the peat bog at all, and you just keep looking, right? And we were like that close last time. We found this really cool peat bog. We'll just say right off of I-5, and so you can infer from there. But unfortunately, it was on school district property, and they would not allow us. They would not allow payment from an alcohol company because it's a school district. So it's so close. But
you need like a shell organization or like an intermediary.
Yes.
Speaking of
you need to get over your childish prejudices about spirits.
Speaking of shells, I have an idea for you. How about you take those pecans from those pecan trees and you use those, you roast them and put your grain above that. So that's how you mulch your grain, is with pecan shells. And
well, Oregon is not inherently known for pecans. But we have these beautiful things called
hazelnuts.
Filberts.
What is
it?
What?
Filberts, hazelnuts.
Yeah, hazelnuts.
Oh, filberts. Yeah.
So they're called filberts out there, but they're hazelnuts.
Actually, they're called that in the Midwest too. That's what Wisconsin people call them.
Colloquial name, like it's
Mr. Urban,
like Marionberry.
No freaking filbert.
That was the mayor here in Chicago, DC, but
never reminded me of that.
Marionberry is not just a mayor from DC. That's true.
Marionberry. I have those in my
shit out of me when that beer came out.
I buy the Marionberry Cheerios. They're also dusted with white stuff. I don't know. Sugar.
This is going right over your head, Liz. I'm sorry,
Liz.
This isn't just old. It's
I'm
like
sending you
politics.
a book about the.
Can we talk about phenols again? Can we get back?
That's a good idea. That's a good idea.
Can we get back
What kind of phenol content do you get in filbert shells?
Whatever you guys want to talk about, I'm here for it.
Courtney McKee says, Jake, you sexy mofo.
It's true.
Don't say that. Wow, look at that shit.
Yeah.
We have a whole different breed of comments this show.
Hey, Courtney.
Have their own. There might as well be the Brad Pitt of distilling over there.
I will tell you.
He strokes his beard.
Yeah, I think
that's me, baby.
The Dan Hegarty of distilling. People really loved him when he was Grizzly Adams back in the 70s, Liz.
Yeah, Grizzly Adams had a mustache. He did have a mustache.
Boom. All right. Mennonites, they're hot. Lou will tell you about that.
I'm going for that
big Mennonites.
Amish chic look.
Imagine Harrison Ford if he had stayed with the girl in Witness.
I always say, the Abe Lincoln / Donegal beard is the mullet of facial hair.
Yeah. Hey,
business up top,
better looking presidents.
Party down below.
I will agree. I mean, that seems factual. That seems sound.
Wow. The woman's opinion here that men with just beards are hot. Is that what you're saying, Liz?
That was not.
That's what I heard.
I was agreeing with Jake's definition, Jake's analogy of the mullet, the facial hair mullet.
And the Donegal, stashless beard is a recognized style of the U.S. and international beard team.
That is Pennsylvania. We just call that the Amishman.
Yeah, I think.
I feel like a mustacheless. That would be good for sensory, right? Because you wouldn't have any sort of interference or any sort of aromas that could interfere.
True, I pick up mustache in almost all my whiskeys.
She's Danish.
Lunch. Yeah, right.
It's like a multi antennas, taste antennas.
On the
into the
heavy
whiskey.
sensory days, I definitely do not beard wax on those days.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or beard balm,
you-
beard oil.
beard. Yeah,
Beard
any
balm?
of those.
Yeah.
beard
Balm. Balm is the best.
Like
Gosh,
a beeswax.
it's generally a paraffin wax based. You
A
know,
paraffin. Okay.
yeah. Helps hold. So if you're doing like I don't know how this became beard care 101. But usually do a balm as
3 out of 4.
Yeah, as a holder, and kind of, you can shape your beard with a bit of balm. And then if you're going like a long day or a long evening, you can do like beard oil on top of that. And that will kind of help extend. But Badass Beard Company is one.
For what? Like what's the performance rating?
Style.
Like what sort of
Well, it
just
depends on
stylistically, or
either
like, go ahead.
stylistically or if you're shaping it. If it's an evening on the town, you kind of need it to
if it's a windy
hold
day,
a little. Exactly.
You
need a bit more hold. Sometimes it's a volume thing.
Shine is a good thing too.
Yeah. And there's obviously satin sheen versus high gloss. You know what I'm saying?
When my beard was longer, when I actually had a longer beard, there's a place here in Chicago. A young woman on the south side has the soap distillery, and she made a really nice bourbon beard oil that I still buy to this very day. Now you can use it on your skin as well, but I loved it on my beard.
I use a nice Landic birch based shampoo. I'm not kidding, actually. It's like €35 a bottle. You can only get it in Iceland, and every time I do a layover in Reykjavik, I get 2 bottles of the shit because it's just. I am old enough that I'm doing silly shit like that now.
You feel left out, Liz? Yeah.
I doubt that.
I'm okay, actually. I will say when I used to have my bangs, I could talk to you all day long about the bang care. That's
you had
a whole other.
You had some awfully precise bangs.
Yeah, you did.
They've been referred to as mathematically perfect.
I was just looking at your
math
picture
is hard,
with the bangs and your little glasses. You were very Lady Gaga during those days. I was trying to think of your style. Very Lady Gaga. There's some Lady Gaga. In there somewhere earlier video.
Some resistance here.
Well, she doesn't want to. She's afraid she's going to be asked to sing.
Oh,
there were some comments. Jake's sister says that Jake's beard is looking fab as always. So since we're on the topic, Brad Krause says hello from Panama. Brad, thanks for joining again.
We gotta have Brad on. He's gonna have a whiskey soon.
We should have him on.
We'll have Brad.
Yeah, we should have Brad.
Yeah.
There's tons more comments from your sister.
From your sister.
They're all.
Would you text her occasionally? She's obviously hungry for communication.
Yes.
They're all fabulous. They're all fabulous comments. So Jake's sister, thanks for joining.
Obviously the Kevin Bacon thing is true. I mean, you can see that from the comments.
Absolutely. Somebody knows somebody who knows me.
Oh, well, let's play that real quick.
Well, I have one very pertinent question to that. Do you know Bob Brewer?
It sounds familiar. No, but John Meyer knows me, who knows Bob.
I'm sure he knows Bob because Bob is like the Kevin Bacon of craft brewing.
Yeah.
So if the two of you were to actually meet, it would probably just
it'd be some singularity of confluence of mass and energy.
Hey, oh my God, she came back.
Here's a question for you, Jake. Since you are a former brewer and you're at a distillery that's also a brewery, and there are a few. I'm actually always surprised that there isn't more of these breweries building distilleries. Obviously, there's a cost to it, and some folks might just say, "No, I like beer." And that's it.
Sure.
But Three Floyds has been distilling this past year, and a number of other pretty prominent ones. And it makes sense. You're making basically what your mash for your beer. or for your distillate. So, do you have any advice for any breweries out there who are thinking about it? And then 2, something I've always wondered is, I love brewer's malt, and I'm surprised that more distilleries don't use it, because I think what I've tasted I thought was fantastic. So I was always a little surprised. So there you go. Two
questions. First one, if I have any advice, don't.
I guessed.
No, that's not fair. There is a lot of synergy between craft beer and craft spirits. However, there was this assumption, I think, in the early days, even at Rogue, that it's an automatic overlap of audiences, and that's not the case. That is never. No. I mean, there's some. You go to the pub, you might have a spirit, you might have a beer, whatever, but the hardcore fans of your beer brand are not necessarily inherently your craft spirits fans.
I always like to refer to it as a Venn diagram.
Mm-hmm. Sure,
from an operations standpoint too. But yeah.
And secondly, hops suck. Hops suck. Don't put hops in your spirits. I did the Liz Rhoades things. I dedicated myself for 2 years. I had every hop distillate. I did, dry hopping. I did every which way. It doesn't work.
Yeah. You're a Liz Rhoades scholar.
Craft beer drinkers really want it to work, but
I want it to work too. I love hoppy beer. I don't drink a lot of it anymore, but there's still some. But
I agree.
I get it out of there. It's garbage.
Yeah. Don't do it.
It tastes like someone spilled a lot of alcohol into your beer. That's what it always tastes like.
It's soapy and not in a good way. It literally stings the nostrils. You can make it so bitter. Yeah, caddy is another term, especially in modern hops. And I think a lot of those are going away. It was my thought that a lot of the undesirable you could say volatiles, but a lot of the undesirable characteristics of modern hops were more from overplanting, stressing them out than, Citra had that for a long time when it came to hops, that kind of catty, cat piss kind of aroma, but you don't get that anymore. And I think, once these new varieties kind of measure out a little bit, equilibrium hits, they stop stressing those plants and they just perform better. Happy plants, happy beer.
Liz, are you happy? We're getting real ag here. I know you like ag.
I do like ag. I was just going to comment around, the hop comment, because I've used beta acids for an antimicrobial in not whiskey, so we won't mention what it was. But even if we're talking about, sesquiterpenes, so like linalool, for example, can even carry over into the distillate, which is exciting because, and I don't think it's necessarily a hop thing, because there's obviously so many other, essential oils, so many other compounds that, as we just discussed, won't perform well, won't hold up. But it's exciting because, and you hear Todd, I'll throw out I'll name drop. You hear Todd talk about Abruzzi and the linalool content in rye and how that provides a really nice floral lavender characteristic. But I don't know where I was going with this, but anyway,
you got to say a lot of really nice chemical shit, so that was good.
Yeah,
I got it out. So for
no, it's really cool because for a change, I understood it. I know more about beer chemistry than I do about whiskey chemistry.
I don't understand anything now.
And to bring it full circle, the malts using Dead Guy are pretty much brewer's malts, right? We have 2 different types of crystal. We have a couple. We have Munich as well. And Liz can certainly speak to base malt a little bit better than I can. But the use of distiller safe malt.
A Northwest thing, because the guys down at Westward are doing that too.
Ooh, Westward.
All right, okay, but I mean, you guys are all very much brewing oriented.
I'm kidding.
No.
I have a love-hate relationship with Westward. Like I totally drink their stuff. Hoffman's a fucking genius. Like, I get it all. I just want to face him like in a celebrity boxing match.
That would be sweet. I would definitely pay
Like
for that.
for
And
charity.
I gotta say, as a writer, I'm not used to paying for things.
Winner
but-
pick your charity. I've been dropping it a couple places. Just I don't know that he doesn't have my number, but like, I just want to, get a rise out of him a little bit,
Hey, we're just about out of
Yeah.
time, but
Yeah.
real quick, I want to know, you're the 11th level wizard, man.
We didn't talk about that.
We did talk about it.
No,
What
I
a thing to
know.
tiptoe around the
Too
whole time.
much big words
Yep.
and confusing, make
Mhm.
Marty's head hurt.
Sure.
I want to hear about wizards.
So here at Rogue, we either take our job titles very seriously or completely disregard them either way. Like, modern job titles never fully describe what you do for a company, right? They can never live up to everything you do, right? A distiller is not just a distiller. We're a chemist, we're an artist, we're a janitor, we're barrel inventory management, we're software engineer, we're psychologists for our employees, right? Like, so my predecessor, John Wilcox, another good guy out there, Bolly Duff, represent. His title was Distillosaurus Rex. And so I was looking for something unique. I came up with level 10 Spirits Wizard, my first tour duty here at Rogue in 2015, to imply, in the Dungeons and Dragons realm, kind of through 20th level is kind of how that works. To imply that I am not a master distiller, because that's not a term until you die, and then people can tell you that you were one, right? That's how it works. And all those new kids who've been doing it a year and call yourselves a master distiller, shame on you, wag of the finger.
Or a bastard distiller sounds better.
Yeah. And so level 10 was to imply that, yes, I have some experience, but yes, I'm a student of this craft. I remain humble. I need to know more from everything and everybody. And when I retire, and when I left, I leveled up. Nice. That's how that worked.
You turned it to 11, didn't you?
Yeah, which is one more.
Yeah, that's one more.
Yeah.
And the Blum brothers have crowned me the Crystal King of Chicago. So bring it on, wizard.
Sure.
If it comes from outside, then it's cool.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I would never crown myself king. That's too.
Liz, who do we have next week?
Gauche.
Yeah. So really exciting show, Jake. Thanks so much for being on.
This is longer than we've ever gone, I think.
It's probably.
We can keep going. I don't actually.
I don't think we can.
No, Will will kill us.
Will.
Well, he'll put a hit out.
I should probably do work today. So thanks for being on. Your sister actually said she should be a guest, so we'd love to have you back on, but maybe we'll just interview your sister or
way more entertaining.
How about we have him on, but it's his sister's voice. So when she's talking, and he has just
so
there's too many embarrassing stories of Jake's childhood.
Put whatever word she wants in his mouth.
That'd be good. Exactly.
So check back with us when we have that very special episode. But until then, please check back with us next week. We're going to have Oscar Bruno of Agitator Whiskey, which is the Swedish vacuum distilled single malt distillery. You heard all those.
Mother Nature,
because it is the Swedish whiskey you've ever tasted.
You've heard all of those words together. Swedish single malt vacuum distilled. All those happening next week with Oscar Bruno. So sign up and come check us out next week.
Now Liz has to get going and washing all those dishes behind her. She has to earn her keep.
When you first came on, I thought that was a freaking computer rack. And then I'm like, oh, wait, it's got glasses in it.
In the 1960s?
They still look like that.
I haven't had those anymore.
Good old reel-to-reels going on there.
Reel-to-reel.
Jake.
Cheers.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Cheers, everyone. Thanks for joining.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Be good, little fella.
Bye-bye.